and this begins a process that will impact the city and impact significantly on the city manager's time. Before I get into the meat of my remarks, I want to extend my thanks to a number of people. First, three mayors, Mayor Hagerty, Mayor Tisdall, and Mayor Morton. Three city managers, Wally Bobkowitz, Rolanda Russell, and Julia Carroll. Multiple city councils, and 11 years of city staff members who have been supportive of the police department from their respective positions, all the way from maintaining the building to maintaining the police fleet. I also want to express my appreciations to the Evanston Citizens Police Association and the Police Advisory Board, who have been my advisors and confidants in the entire time that I've been here. Their steadfast dedication to the city and to meet with me on a quarterly basis to provide me their advice and opinions on current policing matters has been invaluable. Also, the service clubs in the city of Evanston have been extremely supportive to the police department in my tenure here. The Kiwanis and the Rotary have been steadfast partners in this endeavor. I also want to take a quick time and express my appreciation for my family support. This would be an impossible task without their advice and counsel. I want to especially point out my wife Sue, and for her advice and counsel, and my granddaughters for keeping me grounded in what's really important. Lastly, I want to thank the members of the Evanston Police Department. They are an incredible group of men and women. Their dedication and professionalism are the foundation of the story I'm about to tell you. I think one of the most significant parts of this story is that since 2007, the city of Evanston has experienced a 39% reduction in Part 1 crimes. This has a unique impact on the quality of life in the city of Evanston. That translates into thousands less victims. And I think that is the heart of what I and the command staff have attempted to do to minimize the number of victims of crime. We are very good at clearing crimes. We're quite professional in that regard, but if you're a victim, you're still a victim. And so the prevention of crime is really the essence of what we're attempting to do. I think that story continues today. We are down 13% in Part 1 crimes year to date, which is a remarkable accomplishment, and that speaks to the ability and dedication of the men and women of the Evanston Police Department to stick with the deployment process and obtain those results. Those are not magical. That's a lot of hard work. I want to speak to the deployment process, and I teased several times that we can make this extremely simple by saying cops on dots, but there is a significant amount of effort and thought that goes into that. The crime analysis function, the intelligence gathering and dissemination of that intelligence to the level of execution are all critical components of that system. I will not compromise all the sources and methods we use in our pursuit of gun crimes, but those continue to be effective. In the timeline from May 29th to June 29th, there were 9 firearm offenders arrested. 3 of those arrested were charged as armed habitual criminals. That effort continues even as recently as this weekend. On July 7th, an arrest of a 16-year-old carrying a loaded pistol was conducted without incident by members of the tactical unit of the Evanston Police Department. In this time of intense national scrutiny of police departments, I think it is important that I make some comments regarding the Evanston Police Department's relationship with the African American community. I think that I want to remind everyone that crime in Evanston particularly impacts disproportionately on that minority community. The African American community in the city of Evanston is 17% or so. They represent 56% of the crime victims. And as we strive to reduce those number of victimizations, that is our commitment to that community, to be aware of that disparate impact on them by crime, and we spool up our best efforts in an effort to reduce those crimes. Additionally, we are committed to and will be continued to commit to connections with the community in a number of ways. The coaching of FAM basketball, the mentoring through Officer and Gentleman, the reinstitution of the Police Explorers program, and the continued work for law in your community. Those presentations are significant in our efforts to make a contact with the community and ensure that their voice is being heard. I would once again thank a number of people for this successful run, and again, especially the men and women of the Evanston Police Department who have executed faithfully their duties in keeping the community safe. I'd be happy to take a couple of questions.
Chief, is there any relationship of your decision to retire at this point to the fact that the department is facing some budgetary stress and review of possible reorganization of the department? And I've heard rumors that there may be some possible layoffs of officers coming down the pike this year.
The city is facing an extremely difficult budget year, and I would say that this decision allows me some more latitude to comment on what's coming. That wasn't a primary consideration in this. However, I would take this opportunity to say the track record I've recited doesn't come at an inexpensive price tag. To maintain this level of service, to maintain this quality of life, is an expensive proposition, and I realize that expensive proposition has to be weighed with all the other cities' needs and all the other cities' service needs. I would say, in a summary, we have urban issues and North Shore desires for service, and so that's a difficult balancing act. Please.
I have a question. During your time between now and December, what part will you, if any, play in the selection process of the new chief? And as you say, you want the people in the community, especially the African American community, voice to be heard. Will there be community meetings where the community can vet the person that's coming in, or will this strictly be in-house totally with the figurehead?
I think this is an excellent time for me to transition to my boss, the city manager, Wally Bobkowitz, because he will be running that, and he's impressed me as a rather astute individual that I'm certain will take the community input. Mr. Bobkowitz?
Will you take any part in that?
It's entirely up to the city manager. I think the formal part is up to the city manager. To be perfectly honest with you, the way this works, I'm certain when candidates get serious about this, there will be several phone calls and luncheons where I chat with prospective candidates when they want to know how the department functions and runs. Mr. Bobkowitz.
Good morning. Before I answer Ms. Esther's question, I just want to thank you, Chief Eddington, for your years of outstanding service. People come to Evanston for many, many reasons, but they stay in Evanston in part because it's a very safe place. And as you've demonstrated this morning in your tenure as Chief of Police, Evanston has been and will continue to be a very safe place. And I want to thank you for your efforts on behalf of of your colleagues here in the city of Evanston. To answer Ms. Esther's point, as the chief has said, his retirement date is set for December 31st. We will move forward now with retaining a firm to assist the city in the recruitment. I'm going to ask that firm at the outset to hold at least one community meeting, if not more, to work with the community to help to put together what would be the profile for the next chief of police here in Evanston. Many communities do that. I think will be very helpful to do that. As far as the selection process goes, as I hire department heads and have during my 9 years as city manager, there is always community involvement, and so I will commit today that there will be community involvement in the hiring of the next chief of police.
Please.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning.
My name is Madeline Dupree, as you quite know. I'm kind of sad, you know, in a way, because you have been here, you have helped this town out to get ahead. And I've always said there's room for improvement. And I take my hat off to you for many things that you have done for this town. And I'm just trying to say, it looks to me sometimes transparency means a lot to us, okay, in this town, and to the colored, African-American, black, whatever you want to call it, community, okay? And I'm kind of disappointed in the transparency here. We preach it, but we don't show it. And I'm going to leave that alone for now. Now, the next thing is, why are we looking, city manager, chief, for another 6 months looking? There are people I feel that's right here in this community that know what you're about, what you're trying to do, what you were trying to do. Why not look for those people? We are on a budget crunch here, okay? Those people know somebody. How many commitments you have? 3, 4. There's got to be one of them that can take your place, because we need somebody here that knows what you've been after, what we've been trying to do, okay? And I'm hoping that one of them step up to the plate and go through the scrutiny of this town of putting them in your place. What about that, city manager, chief?
I agree with you 100%. And I hope that any member of the department who feels qualified and is interested in the position will apply.
If I could echo the city manager's comments, it would make my life much easier if it was an inside handoff to someone that I've worked with over the years. I'm not sure that that's possible at this time, but the city manager is very open to that. And once again, we talk about transparency. The city manager and I have been working towards this day for quite some time. And so I would say that the city manager has been extremely willing to train the command staff to have the credentials to take over this position. And so I think that we have a number of viable options internally. We have to see if those viable options come to fruition. And once again, these positions are a lot about fit. How will this person work with the community? How will this person fit into the management staff of the city? And so everyone who applies for this job will have the credentials. The issue will be, will he or she fit into this city, this department? Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, Chief, I forgot to say, say congratulations, but you did, and we do appreciate your service that you gave to the community. Back in 2005, I had the pleasure of working with you, and what came out of that is the Civilian Police Advisory Committee that is in place now and as you know, that the people that was working and met with you all of those months at the Civic Center was working to put forth and create an independent police review board and working with dealing with things and everything. How do you feel about pushing are either promoting that or even having that as something, your views on that? Will you be suggesting to the community now that you leaving is not such a crunch thing to you, you can speak your mind, which you always do. Is that something that you would be pushing for here in Evanston?
The first part of my answer will deal with, currently, Mayor Haggerty has an advisory committee reviewing the complaint process to see if there can be any improvements done, in improvements to that process. I think they've had an extended deadline to October. I am eagerly awaiting to see what their recommendations are and react to those recommendations and see if there's any implementation that can be done prior to my exit. I think based on what that committee has to say will be the springboard into how much the citizen review is, how much of a change comes to that system. I would say, and I am appreciative of the hard work that was done by that volunteer citizen group to get us to where we are at now. And I must take this opportunity to say, while the cameras are rolling, that Evanston has a unique system of review of complaints against police. I don't think there's any place else that those complaints wind up on a televised human services meeting for their final resolution. And so I think that we provide a great deal of transparency in that area. Once again, the mayor's committee is reviewing to see if there's anything we can do, and I would hold my remarks on what comes next till I hear what that committee has to say.
Chief, unless there's other questions from the press, Mayor Haggerty is here. Mayor, do you wish to say anything? Oh, Genevieve's got a question.
This is pretty basic. How old are you, Chief?
Older than dirt. No, I'm 66 years old.
66. All right. And what are your future plans?
Really, I am focused on this time period between now and the end of the year to conclude several things. As alluded to earlier, this will be a raucous budget discussion. I am committed to getting the department through that budget, those budget decisions as judiciously as I can. Also, there is a staffing study that's pending. I am want to be a participant in that review of the department. Also, as alluded to earlier, the citizens group that's reviewing our complaint process report is due in October, and I want to be here to speak to that. So my focus is this time period here. I have no, this is the first time in my adult life that I haven't had another job to go to. So I am focused on getting this done correctly and focused on this is going to take a significant amount of time and energy. And also I am committed to, if in fact it is not an inside candidate, that there is a roadmap for the new chief to review and know who to go to for key issues and key members of the community that are represented here today. And I do appreciate the time that they have taken out of their day to come by and be able to identify those key community members to the new chief so he or she can have that voice to hear from the community as soon as they walk in. So this is going to be a busy 6 months for me.
Chief, how many officers at this point are on probationary status, less than 2 years with the department? What's the overall age of people in force? I know at one point, not too many years ago, the force was getting pretty mature, relatively speaking, and there was a lot of turnover, a lot of new people come on. Has that continued to be the case, or?
It is, in some ways, a relatively young department. I think right now, the probationary situations, I think we'll have, by the end of the month, there'll be 5 people still in the probationary period. But I think overall, if you look at the age range of the department, it is a relatively young group. I think one of the advantages is, in compare and contrast, that when I entered the organization 11 years ago, the sergeant's cadre was particularly inexperienced. And there were a lot of people who were saying the same thing. Oh my goodness, we've got all these new police officers. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, we've got all these new sergeants. And so I think that dynamic has changed. We have an experienced supervisory cadre that's well-trained, all the way from sergeant, commander, and deputy chief. And so the next chief will have available to him or her a very well-trained command and supervisory staff, which I think is the heart of executing what needs to be done through deployment and other issues.
And is the staffing at this point at full staffing for officers, sworn officers?
Not quite. We're down 4 officers as we speak. And once again, some of those positions are being held as a budget offset. And so it's, and once again, back to this is going to be an extremely difficult budget discussion. Mary?
What are the professional and educational qualifications being for this chief?
It's up to the city manager, but generally you're looking for a minimum of a bachelor's degree, preferably a master's degree, some level of additional professional training, FBI Academy, Staff and Command at Northwestern, Southern Police Institute, Police Executive Research Forum credentials. And so those will be in the job description, and I am certain in this area we will have a number of candidates that fulfill all those, will check all those boxes. And back to my earlier comments, it's about not so much about the credentialing. Everybody will have those credentials that gets to the process. The issue will be how they fit in with the city management staff, how they fit in with the community will be the key factors, in my opinion, in this selection process. Please, sir.
Yeah, congratulations first.
Thank you very much.
My main concern is, in the search for the new chief, will there be a provision for citizen participation? Now, we were told we could participate in the training program, but we never got the opportunity to sit in and put our input in the training when they had that. So I'm very concerned with the selection of the new chief. I'm glad the mayor and the city manager is here, that there will be a special emphasis on community participation in the selection of the new chief.
The city manager touched on that earlier, and I am certain there will be. He is committed to citizen input, and once again, we are in Evanston. We get citizen input on everything, and this is a significant position for the city of Evanston. Not only in the public safety aspects of this, but in the budget management aspect of this. The chief of police is responsible for a lot of money being spent, and that is a significant issue, especially now in the context of the looming budget situation. Yes, ma'am.
Real quick, Chief, my mind is roaming now. Okay, say for example, you or someone step up to the plate right here, deputy, whoever, commander, whoever. Would that play a part if you stay here for 6 months? What kind of leadership, what kind of position would that cause the next person who's going to step up? Would that hinder the department? Would that make it a plus or a negative there? because you would still be in charge, correct? I mean, I may be wrong in answering these questions, but mindset is.
No, I understand, there are complexities in a handoff, in a change of command, but I am confident in the persons who would be eligible that are inside the department. I work with them now, I would continue to work with them, and I think that would be very positive and not an issue. I don't foresee that being a problem, I really don't.
And there will be no overlap. There's only going to be one chief of police. So Chief Eddington's indicated he's prepared to stay until the end of December. Our goal is to have a chief start in January 1.
Okay, city manager, what do the council members say, because they have the last say, right?
They do not.
They say, let's do this right now, instead of paying 2 salaries, or maybe 1 salary, and we go ahead, we have a budget crunch, and you're like, some people are smiling, but when I do my budget, I have to be very, very careful in how I do it, okay? So I assume that the city of Evanston is looking ahead, down the road, and thinking about that.
And that's why we're here today. So the chief has been kind enough to provide 6 months' notice so that we can have this be an orderly transition. I think there was a question earlier about what message does this send to the community of candidates. I think it sends an outstanding message that we're looking for an orderly transition from one excellent, outstanding chief of police to another hopefully excellent, outstanding chief of police. So there'll just be one. We won't be paying for 2 chiefs. We'll just be paying for one. Unless there's other questions, Mr. Mayor?
Good morning. This is a bittersweet day. We have been led by a superb police chief for 12 years. Crime has been significantly reduced in Evanston during that time. We have a police force that reflects the diversity of this community. And that diversity runs all the way up the ladder in this police department. I think we do have many excellent professionals here in the police department, and like the city manager said, I hope some of them will apply. I also think we're a world-class urban ring city in this country, and we need to do a national search and bring the next police chief here who has the capacity to understand this community, understand proper policing and tactics, and being a collaborator. This chief has proven over the last 12 years to be a tremendous collaborator with different city departments, with different nonprofits here in this community, and different organizations that all together are making this a really, really safe place to live and to work and to play. And I just want to say, Chief, on behalf of the Evanston City Council and all the residents here in Evanston, thank you for your service and your commitment over the last 12 years.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question to the mayor. The chief gave stats and stuff about crimes and everything and where they were happening and everything. What would be your position to the new police chief in terms of the statistics that is your statistic, which shows that a large, over impact of Black minorities are impacted by this department in terms of just being here and everything you have in your stop and frisk, your stop cards, your pulling them over and stuff, and in a lot of the complaints, which the chief did mention, that goes to the process that says they are unfounded, but in really looking at them and analyzing them, they are questionable and troublesome. What are you going to be asking of this new chief to do in terms of those items?
Yeah, my expectation is that the finalists that come through this process, will understand how policing has been done in this community, how important citizen rights and constitutional rights are, how important it is that people be treated fairly and equitably here in this community, and And again, if it's an internal candidate, certainly they understand Evanston, they understand, you know, the issues that we're dealing with. If it's an external candidate, I think we would certainly be looking to understand how they have implemented policing practices, again, that are fair and equitable and non-discriminatory in their communities, while also keeping those communities safe. Public safety is paramount, and treating people fairly and equitably is paramount as well. And we try to do a good job of combining those two, and I would expect the next police chief will have that same focus.
All right. I'm sure the chief will stay for any additional questions members of the press would have. Thank you all for coming out. Have a good rest of the day.